Hi, how's it going?
Hello, everyone. I tend to be biased against fake products. Products designed for intentional deception grind my gears. Whether that deception comes in the form of simply misrepresenting specs, capabilities, and quality, or outright counterfeiting another product, it all bothers me. This is the GoToToolz GTZ 103, and it is a Neumann TLM 103 clone. It could be called a fake since the person making them does intentionally make them look as much like a Neumann TLM 103 as they reasonably can, but they don't claim it's a genuine Neumann. They are upfront about the fact that it's a clone, and as far as I can tell, their intentions are honest. It's sort of like a company selling a kit to make a Pontiac Fiero look like a Lamborghini. The only difference here is that they claim that the performance is also a close match to the original, not just the looks. So I decided to test one out and see if it's any good. The thing is, there are multiple versions of this microphone, and I actually got two of them because I was curious about the slightly ambiguous differences listed on the site. The first one is this one, which is called a GTZ 103 on the website, and while it's clearly designed to mimic a TLM 103, right down to the look of the emblem, it does say GoToToolz on it, it says GTZ 103, and it says Made in US on the mic. On the website, it says it uses a circuit board designed in 2022. But here's the thing. This is the other GTZ 103. This is not a Neumann microphone. This version on the website is also called a GTZ 103. I'm not sure how to feel about the fact that this microphone has a knockoff Neumann logo on it, says Neumann microphones, says TLM 103, and says Made in Germany on it. Again, the seller is upfront that it's just a clone. But once it's out in the wild, this microphone could end up inadvertently or even intentionally confusing or misleading someone, whether the original maker intended that or not. Selling mics with the logo and branding of another company and inaccurate made-in labeling on them feels a little iffy to me, even if there is no ill intent by the person making them. I'm not sure how they get away with it. Unfortunately, there are also some oddly incorrect claims on the website. Why oddly incorrect? Well, the Neumann branded version says it has a, quote, nice transformer and, quote, identical mic body dimensions to the original. I took both of these microphones apart, and with the exception of the little diamond emblem and the little sticker around the body, they are identical. They both have the same circuitry, the same capsule, and the same components, and neither of them utilize a transformer. Neither does a real TLM 103, and they claim the GTZ 103 has a similar circuit design to the Neumann mic, so the mention of a transformer is just strange. The claim of having identical dimensions isn't true either. Both of these microphones are the same size, and they are both slightly smaller than a TLM 103. Not a big deal, just odd claims. So make of all that what you will. None of it necessarily affects quality or performance, but considering it is such an unabashed copy of another product, I wanted to talk about it. But once you get beyond all that, is the GTZ 103 any good, and is it a good value? Let's find out. I'm now recording with a GTZ 103, and in terms of fit and finish, the GTZ lags behind some other mics, even in its own price range. It's not terrible, but there are little details that aren't straight. You can see the logo is kind of offset to the side. The metal mesh grill is uneven in places, and the paint rubs off pretty easily. Also, if you tap the grill, you get a buzzing vibration. Not that you'd ever be tapping on the mic while recording, but you can hear and even feel the mic resonating after a tap or bump. It comes with a very cheap-feeling plastic shock mount that would otherwise be fine, except that it doesn't work properly with the microphone. In fact, the two mics came with slightly different shock mounts, but both use this same microphone mounting system, and both have the same issues. First, whether it's because of the paint in the threads of the mount or on the threads of the microphone itself, it doesn't thread all the way on. It begins to thread and then it kind of jams up. So it starts going on nice, and then it gets about that far, and it gets really tight. But the issue is that even if it were to thread all the way down, there's a lip on the little nut that spins that sticks up, and that would bottom against the mic before the microphone actually tightened against the base. So basically what that leaves is a microphone that is just loose in the mount. So with a little fiddling, it could be made to work, but it's a shame that it isn't quite right. Luckily, one of the microphones came with just kind of a standard plastic mic clip for the bottom, which works fine on both microphones, so I'm just using that right now. They also come with a short XLR cable and a little wooden box. There's no foam or anything inside, any kind of padding or anything to hold the mic in place. It's literally just a thin, super lightweight, unfinished wood box. Obviously, you could still store the microphone in it. You might want to, use some of your own padding or something. But the larger of the two shock mounts that was included doesn't even fit by itself in the box, like not even close. And the smaller of the two shock mounts just barely fits, but it's literally a slight squeeze. And then once it's in there, adding the microphone along with it, literally you have to like force it down and kind of squeeze everything together. So really can't store the shock mount with the microphone in the box. So just something to be aware of there. These issues aren't deal breakers, and it's at least somewhat understandable considering what the seller claims to be trying to accomplish for the price. But in terms of build quality, you can get better for the price. I've been recording with the GTZ 103 for a little bit, but let's do a few comparisons. Obviously, a comparison with a real TLM 103 is interesting, and we'll get there, but to see if it's a good value, I think it's also worthwhile to compare it to other options in a somewhat similar price range. First up, let's compare it to the Neat Worker Bee 2, which is currently available for around half the price of the GTZ 103. If you're looking for an inexpensive, good value microphone, you can do a lot worse than the Worker Bee 2. It doesn't come with a shock mount or pop filter, but in terms of performance, I think it's quite good for the current price of $60. But how does it stack up with the GTZ 103? The GTZ looks like a TLM 103, but at twice the price of the Worker Bee, does it sound better? Obviously, this is just one voice in one situation, but hopefully it will give you some idea of how these two microphones compare. And I'll give you a bit of silence from each so that you can compare the noise floor. Next up is the Audio-Technica AT 2020. This mic is slightly cheaper than the GTZ 103 if you get the standard version of the AT 2020 without the shock mount. I got this version with the shock mount on sale for the same price as the standard mic, but it's typically a bit more expensive than the GTZ 103. The AT 2020 is a popular mic in this price range, and I think it performs well for the price. But how does it compare to the GTZ 103? Does the GTZ 103 stand out as a clear performance winner so far? I'll be quiet again so that you can compare the noise floor of these two. The next mic I have for comparison is the Tascam TM280. The normal price for this microphone is $200, but it seems like it's almost always on sale for around $100 to $120, and I just saw it on sale for $70. So it doesn't feel like too much of a stretch to consider it as being in the same price range as the rest of these mics. It comes with a shock mount and an aluminum carry case. It also has a 34mm diaphragm, which is much larger than anything we've tested so far. It has a high-pass filter and a pad switch as well. If you like the sound and find it on sale, I think the TM280 is a good value. But how does it compare to the GTZ 103? I'll be quiet so that you can compare the noise floor. Now I'm recording with both the GTZ 103 and an actual Neumann TLM 103. It's both a pointless and a crucial comparison. It's a bit pointless because they are vastly different in price, and most people aren't likely on the fence trying to decide between these two microphones. On the other hand, the GTZ 103 is specifically designed and sold as a clone of the TLM 103, so it's a completely relevant comparison. I'll be quiet for a moment so you can compare the noise floor of these two. Sound is extremely subjective, and there are generally diminishing returns the more you spend. The TLM 103 is a great microphone, and it's probably worth it for some people. But honestly, I don't know that it's worlds better than a lot of less expensive options that are available these days. So it's very possible that the GTZ 103 reaches a higher percentage of the performance of the Neumann mic than it does its price. But I think that's true of a lot of microphones. So after listening to these two microphones as I switch back and forth, as well as the previous comparisons, how does the GTZ stack up? Does it earn its title of clone? Or are the similarities only skin deep? And is it just a good microphone in its own right? In the end, hopefully you have a general idea of how the GTZ 103 sounds on its own and compared to a few other mics. In terms of being a clone, I'm sure people will have their own feelings, positive or otherwise, about the looks of this microphone and the slightly surreal reality of a company making such a blatant copy of another company's product, right down to the actual branding. But outside of that, just in terms of features, quality, and sound, is this microphone a good value? Hopefully this video helps you decide. If you have any questions, post them in the comments and I'll answer if I can. As always, thanks for watching. Take care.